All right, everybody, welcome back to Skywatchers Radio, and now joining us on the show, Conspiracy Journal's own Mr. Tim Swartz, or as I like to call him, Mr. Tim Schwartz. The Schwartz is with us. Welcome, Tim, back to the show. It's been a while since you've been on with us, man. Where have you been?
Well, may the Swartz be with you, of course. Where have I been? I've been asleep.
Where have you been hiding? On the outer edge?
Yes, that's very good, very good. Yes,
I like that. You saw what I did there, didn't you?
That's right. I have been on the outer edge, and at this time of night, more than likely sleeping.
Yes. So, what's new in Conspiracy Journal land? Give us an insight of what's the latest with you in Conspiracy Journal, my friend.
Oh my gosh, what's the latest with Conspiracy Journal? There's just all kinds of, every week there's something new and interesting with the Conspiracy Journal. And what's the thing that's got me going this week? Well, I don't know. There's I don't know if you have seen this, but there's a guy with a certain UFO sites that at this time of or this early in the morning, I can't remember offhand, but like every couple of weeks or so, he puts out something new about Mars, something that one of the rovers has taken a picture of.
Is it this Inyo something Mateo guy or something like that?
Well, could be. Yeah.
Okay, I think I might know who you're talking about. Continue.
He's always seen something in like the latest batch of Mars photographs, or even some of the older ones that one of the rovers has taken. Every day NASA releases new photographs taken just from the surface of Mars, and this guy is always finding something, whether it be what he thinks looks like a gopher or a skull or some kind of robotic being or anything like that. And the latest one is he called it the new face on Mars. I don't know if you've seen that one.
No, I have not. But,
it's
I've seen a couple new faces on Mars. One that looks like a kid with a crown on its head. Is that the one you're talking about? Because that's a little bit older, though.
Yeah, this one just came out just a few days ago, and Scott, that's the guy's first name, claims that he's found signs of life in an older NASA photograph. And this one is the image of a rock that seems, has his claim to have human-like appearances. And it's on its side. And it does. It looks like a kind of an elongated face with looks like it's kind of wearing a hat. It almost has like a cartoonish appearance to it. And I'm always fascinated by some of these photographs that have been taken by these Mars rovers of things on Mars, especially the one craft that's in orbit around Mars that is able to take like these panorama shots. And there's been things that look like trees, like not just like one or two trees, but like vast forest and these other things. I don't know how you would describe them. They almost look like coral. The formations that were taken, I think they're around the North Polar regions of Mars. They're just really, really bizarre looking. And I think it was Arthur C. Clarke, before he passed away. He made the comment that that whatever these things were, these huge, almost banta tree-like things that were taken, to him, he said that could really point to life on Mars. And of course, NASA always has some kind of explanation for these that doesn't involve life. NASA really bends over backwards to come up with explanations that doesn't involve life. You've heard of Occam's razor.
Right.
The simplest explanation is probably the most likely, and NASA goes completely in the opposite direction. Rather than saying, these things do look like trees, no, instead they're like, well, this is like, some kind of frozen explosion of carbon dioxide that when it hits the atmosphere of Mars freezes and makes, I'm not exactly sure that's exactly what they said, but I mean, it's every other thing except the possibility of life. But what the point I was making before I just started rambling in this insane fashion.
Completely, yeah. I hear the crickets in the background. No, you're actually, but you're making perfect sense. NASA is, they do play this game, and look, they have to if they're going to keep the secret going, the lie going. So they have to play that game.
Right. But the point I was trying to make is that some of these people who are seeing just all kinds of weird shapes in these rocks and then are putting out news releases, they're not helping the process.
Well, yeah, but I mean, how much of this is realistically something there, or how much of this is what's the condition called pareidolia?
Yes, exactly.
Pareidolia.
Yeah, I mean, how much of that could that just be that pareidolia? I mean, seriously, look, I've seen objects that look like a face on Earth. Mm-hmm. I see clouds that look like things all the time. It doesn't mean there's people in the sky looking at me when I see a shape that looks like a face in the clouds. You know what I mean? Exactly. People see things when they're not there because they want to see things when they're. We all want to believe, and we all do believe. Apparently, that's why more and more people are doing these kind of things because we all believe that there's life out there, and we all want to make it. It's almost like we're trying to will it to exist.
Yes, thank you. and that's the point that I am making. I'm not going to go and say that this guy should just give it up, that he's nuts. But
he should just give it up because he's nuts.
I think he should be maybe a little bit more show a little bit more discretion. I think before he. Just every little rock that has like a human-like face or something like that, on it, I think he should maybe take a little bit more time to judge before he releases anything about this stuff. It doesn't help the situation.
No, it does not. But it is amazing though, Tim, how many different objects on Mars do resemble faces, different creatures. That is a little bit bizarre. So look, this all started back when, of course, that famous picture of Sidonia came out with the face on Mars. Right. That was that was the springboard to people looking at Mars and looking for signs of faces and signs of intelligent life. And really, for a long time, a lot of people held on to that as being an authentic proof of some kind of a Martian civilization. And of course, NASA later on took pictures and kind of disproved that there was anything there. But did they really?
No, I say no. They were much less resolution. I contend.
Well, there's that, but it's funny because there's been other pictures in that area, and really it doesn't look like there's anything there. But here's another thing, and we got to keep this into perspective. Maybe there was something there, and NASA already blew it up.
What? You're not the first one who has said that.
Hope based most of his research on that very fact.
Yeah.
And
I don't put it past NASA. I don't put it past our own government. There was something there. We went because here's the thing. I believe with my entire soul that man has already been on Mars at some point. Okay, we've landed on Mars with men. And we've already started looking around, doing some stuff. It's just, that's black budget projects, man. They don't tell us about those things.
According to many reports, we were going there in the 60s.
And I believe it. There's that famous video, and I know a lot of people seen it. You can YouTube it. A very famous video of a landing on Mars that took place sometime, I believe, in the 60s. And it looks pretty authentic. I mean, it looks pretty good.
Supposedly that video ran in the British pseudo-documentary, Alternative 3.
Yes.
It ran right at the very end. Yeah, very end of the program. And I'll tell you something, boy. I mean, they if that's a fake video, they did a good job with it. But then again, how would a little production company in Great Britain in the late 1970s manage to get a hold of this film when nobody else had ever heard of it or even considered such a possibility. I mean, I'm not saying that I don't think that there's a good possibility that there are secret bases on the moon and Mars. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying, how did this little production company get a hold of this when nobody else had been able to beforehand?
Maybe Ray Santilli, the alien autopsy guy, has something to do with it. He buys and sells videos all the time. But it's funny though. Talking about Ray Santilli, it's funny because look, that video. The one thing about the Mars landing video that I find so authentic is the simple fact that when that video came out, when that video was supposedly shot, it is higher quality special effect than just about everything that Hollywood was producing.
Mm-hmm. Right. And
I mean, you can look at Doctor Who, for example, which has aliens and space and all that kind of junk. Nothing on Doctor Who could match that little video.
Right.
So if you're talking about it, I mean, they didn't have the budget like the Alien Autopsy. Obviously, that had a nice budget. But if you're talking about some amateurs putting that together, why wasn't these people working for the BBC or something like that on Doctor Who? You know what I mean? So
yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's like I said before. Well, of course, there are some people out there who say that yes, not only are there secret bases on Mars, but we're getting there through teleportation and time travel and all that. And
slow your roll, Tim Swartz. Hold on. I'm still not sold on teleportation, and I have my own reasons why I would never allow myself to be teleported. Thank you very much. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know my reasoning, right? You know the reason.
Well, what talking about like maybe the Star Trek version of teleportation, where you're taken apart piece by piece and then reassembled.
Every single molecule, man, is pulled apart and then it's slingshotted somewhere else into the abyss of space. Here's my problem with this theory of teleportation: you're essentially killing yourself and then bringing yourself back to life on the other side. What happens to the soul? If there is such a thing?
Right. I don't know. I mean,
because essentially it's a clone of you on the other side. It's not the real original you.
So if you believe in a soul, then more than likely that's not you that's been reassembled on the other side. I mean, if you think about some of the crazy episodes that the first version of Star Trek had. Like what was it, like the interdimensional one where you had evil Spock with the goatee and all that. So every time that they would teleport and be reassembled, you're not dealing with the original, people, the original souls of them. So they're all evil. The entire first run of Star Trek, you're dealing with evil, demonic, soulless people.
I always find it interesting and funny that the way they make Spock look evil is by giving him a goatee.
Well, sure. That is
facial hair makes you evil.
That is how you show that somebody is evil. You give, from clean shaven to evil.
I must be an evil bastard. I got a full-blown beard, man. Let me tell you.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, no, and it's not just it's not just a beard. You have to give them some interesting lighting. Where you have like the key light just a little bit lower than say the nose, so that it shoots up at you. That always gives you that's evil. That makes
That's what I got. That's what I'm going with right now.
Right. But anyway, what I was saying, beforehand is that, Mars, interesting place, more than likely that there is more going on there than we are being told. But I think that everyone out there should look at these photographs that are being released, where someone's saying that, yeah, look, here's an old robot that. Or like a statue or something like that. You should look at this stuff with a little bit of discretion. I mean, I'm not saying just instantly, be skeptical or debunk this stuff, but don't just immediately jump on the bandwagon and say, yes, that's an old Martian statue or what have you.
Yeah, I'm not jumping on that bandwagon, but I'll tell you this much. I do think we are on Mars. I think we have bases on there. I think we have bases on the moon. In fact, let me get your opinion on this, Tim, because I don't think we've actually discussed your opinion on, have we been to the moon? Was it an authentic moon landing? Was there any hoaxing involved at all? Do you think that it was all a big hoax? Do you think Hollywood played a part with hoaxing it, or do you think that we went to the moon? What's your thought?
Well, I grew up. I was a kid when the whole, Gemini and Apollo programs were taking place. So, I mean,
right.
I watched all that stuff. I mean, every launch that took place, boy, if it was on television, I would be watching it. And so, I mean, I'm kind of emotionally involved with it. I mean, I had an intimate relationship with NASA and all that stuff, and to see where NASA is now compared to its heydays is just, I mean, it's just really sad. But I do think that we did land on Mars. I mean, I think that
on the moon or on Mars.
We definitely landed. We definitely landed on the moon, and I think that we landed on Mars as well. But the Apollo program, yeah, I mean, I think that was real. That we did land on the moon, which is amazing, considering the technology that they had available to them in the late 1960s. I heard that, what was it, like the computer system that they had in the Apollo craft and the lunar lander is about the equivalent of a calculator that we have today.
A calculator, and I've heard even a washing machine,
So let's go with that for a second, though. I mean, look
funny.
How you're qualifying that technology, bringing us farther than anybody's ever been since 1972 publicly.
Right.
I mean, it's the only program in government's history that's stopped or regressed, for that matter, as far as technology goes. I have such a hard time believing that we went there publicly. I believe we've been there privately, and I absolutely believe there's bases up there, and I like you, believe we're on Mars. If not every planet out there, we have some sort of setup. I just find the Apollo missions so hard to take. And then you throw in the Apollo mission tapes are missing from the vaults, and just, I mean, there's so much there for people to grasp onto to find fault in us going there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but you can do that in just about any subject. I mean,
sure.
That you can find a fault in just about anything, young Padawan learner. The thing, I
don't think we ever went there.
Well, here's the thing. The thing with the moon, though, and this is what's funny. Look, there is evidence that we have been on the moon. Not only that, when you listen to some of what the astronauts were saying, you could tell they were censored from what they saw. A lot of those guys, not only Edgar Mitchell, but a lot of these guys were censored from what they actually were, what they saw and what they were able to speak about. And, to me, the fact that a lot of these guys came back sort of traumatized tells you a lot.
Well, Edgar Mitchell, I mean, he's been about the only one who, I mean,
really
he
vocal.
Hasn't come right out and said that, we ran into, aliens on the moon or things like that, but he's come pretty close to it. I mean, he's made public announcement that he definitely believes, that they're extraterrestrials and that they've been visiting us here on Earth. And but you have to remember that a lot of the not a lot of them, all the old astronauts, I mean, they were in the military, but they were all Air Force, and when they took their what's the term? Vow of silence, or whatever it is that the military makes these guys take. That, I mean, they're going to stick with that till they die. I mean, they're not even going to talk about it with their wives or children or anything like that. They've made some hints about what the experiences that they've had, and as well, I mean, I don't know if you remember, but a lot of the Apollo missions, as they were on their way to the moon, I mean, there was all kinds of weird radio transmissions that that they and mission control were picking up, weird voices. There was reports of Santa Claus, as they called it, which was the term for an unidentified flying object. You would hear the astronauts, tell NASA, like, well, we see Santa Claus. So, I mean, it seems readily apparent that something was observing the Apollo missions right to the surface of the moon, and very possibly the astronauts had some kind of unusual experiences as they were walking around and driving around, as the early missions had it.
Not only that, keep this in mind. Also, I've seen some pictures that look like they've been doctored from the Apollo missions.
Oh, sure. Very bad Photoshop.
No, but here checks out. They look like they've been doctored, and then I've seen other photos that people are saying, well, these are the original, but they may have been doctored also. And when you see some of the stuff that supposedly have been taken out of these photos, that kind of tells me that they were really on the moon. That these are real pictures, and they were doctored to remove whatever was there, so we don't see it.
Yeah. Oh no, I definitely think that we went to the moon. But I mean, what bothers me is if we were able to go to the moon using the technology that they had in the 1960s, and now they're telling us that they can't do it again, or that it's extremely difficult to do it again. I'm like, what the? Come on.
Exactly.
Yeah, but here's the thing. That's the United States saying that, but other countries are getting ready to go back to the moon.
Right.
Yes, to go to the moon for the first time.
For instance, China just put a robotic rover on the moon last year. So, I mean, it took them all this time. And many say, are much further along technologically speaking than the U.S. is. So it just
for smartphones and computers, but
I mean,
for the everyday folks. But I mean, when it comes to black budget projects, I don't think anybody's got the market cornered like America.
Right. Well,
we've got that market, baby. We're number one in that.
There was a gentleman by the name of Ingo Swann who was a remote viewer, and he worked for the CIA intelligence services and the government, and he wrote a book. I can't remember what it is right now. It never really got a really big release, but he said that he had been hired by some kind of intelligence service to remote view sections of the moon. And when he did, I mean, he said that he ran across an extraterrestrial race that was there, or at least he had the impression it was an extraterrestrial race, and that the times that he was able to remote view, that he was concerned because it seemed like they could tell that they were watching, that he was watching them. So I've often wondered, and this is not a new speculation, that we did make it to the moon, but then somebody told us to get the hell off, and that's why we've never been back again.
Yeah,
that's my theory.
I don't argue with many people over if we went or not, because most everybody in this field agrees that if we went or if we didn't go, we were warned not to come back. So
my thing is, guys, look, if we're all on the same page that the U.S. government has back engineered, crashed UFOs, or that they have black budget projects of something that flies really, really fast that we can't even comprehend the speeds, right? Maybe light speed, maybe close to light speed. If we have this sort of technology and it's black budget project technology, then we've definitely been on the moon many times over. We've been probably all over the entire solar system as it is with these kind of things. Of course, we're not told about these things because they are black budget projects. In fact, I would even say that, you remember that famous triangle craft that Art Bell saw many years ago?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I would not be surprised if that was a government black budget project. A lot of people in that time period were seeing the same exact triangle UFO out in that same area. So it does not shock me at all to hear one day that, yeah, this is actually one of ours, and we've been having this since the 70s. Look at the stealth bomber, for crying out loud. That thing was mistaken for years to be a UFO.
Mm-hmm. But the difference is, the stealth bomber, when you see it flying around, you can't mistake that. That is a jet technology.
Well, now, yeah, but remember when that first started when they first started the test flights, man, people were confused. They didn't know what the heck was going on.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, people thought that was a legit UFO. I remember when I was a little kid in the 80s. I lived in California, and I remember people like really going bananas every time one of those things was flying around, thinking it was an alien spaceship of some sort. And even after people, even after it was publicly announced what this was, people still mistook it for a UFO because they might not have heard what it was. Maybe they didn't see the reports, read the news or whatever. So I mean, these things still got mistaken all the time. I mean,
and there you are. I mean, we're just talking about a technology that, while it's definitely a lot more advanced than, say, the other jet technology, there's also another part where they're using technology that is just absolutely, it would be like science fiction to the rest, to the rest of the population. Like you say, the black triangle crafts. I mean, they are obviously flying around using something that is not known by civilian scientists, so to speak, whether it be field propulsion or who knows. What it is, and these types of craft are being used in a secret space program. I have no doubt that there is a secret space program that we are using to get us to a lot of places in this solar system and maybe outside of this solar system. There are a lot of people who also say that that the Earth is under quarantine by extraterrestrial races of some kind. That maybe the limit is the orbit of the moon. I'm not quite sure about that, but it's if you believe in the secret space program like I do, and who knows? I mean, maybe we're out there.
It's an interesting theory.
We're out there like we're Star Wars, and having battling these other races who are trying to keep us quarantined on planet Earth.
Well, it makes
sense.
But
it makes sense. We're a warring race. I mean, we can't get along with each other here on this planet. Do you think it's going to go any better if we start traveling the stars and mingling with space aliens?
No. Well,
probably not. No.
No, definitely not. And some people like to. I am by no means an expert or even profess to be an expert of the Bible and some of these other ancient texts. But some people point out to say the passages of the Tower of Babel. Where the people had all gotten together and were building this huge tower, and God, or whatever you want to call him, decided that we were getting too big for our britches, and then had everybody speak a different language, and then it all fell apart. I've heard some people speculate that this is kind of around the fire storytelling that has been passed down from generation to generation has gotten confused. And actually, what you're seeing is how we got quarantined on planet Earth. That we're not just talking about a couple of tribes out in Mesopotamia someplace where this happened. No, we're talking about all of the ancient civilizations on planet Earth, thousands and thousands, before the last ice age, in fact, and that we were put in our place by, either our extraterrestrial ancestors, because we didn't just appear on planet Earth by chance. I don't think.
No, not. No.
I think we are a genetically engineered race, and because who knows, because we're maybe we're the redheaded bastard child of the galaxy. We've been put on this planet and told stay.
Well, here's a interesting concept that we should segue into real quick. Scientology. This kind of digs a little bit into what they believe with Xenu bringing life to Earth when there was nothing but Neanderthal man running around, monkey man, and he brought a bunch of beings who were outcasts, criminals, bad guys, and he dumped them on Earth, dumped their bodies in a volcano?
Volcano, yes.
Yeah, and then in his UFO, which was, ironically enough, equipped with a soul-catching device. Very cool.
And where have we
need to get one of those
before, Yeah,
South Park. But anyway, so this soul-catching device picks up all the souls out of this volcano and then spreads it all over the Earth, and that's who we are. If that's the case, it's pretty funny.
We're kind of so. In other words, the planet Earth is kind of like the Australia of the galaxy.
Yeah, kind of. With the outback of the universe.
Right. That's right. Well, I mean, don't forget when Australia was populated by convicts from Great Britain, mostly. So, I mean, is that what planet Earth is?
Pretty much. I think what L. Ron Hubbard was doing when he was creating Scientology, he was like, there's a story there, and I think I'm going to copy it. And plagiarism, he never got hit with plagiarism.
Scientology would never do that.
Never.
They're a legitimate religion.
Yeah, no kidding. Very legit. Have you ever been approached by a Scientologist and asked to join the church?
Oh yeah.
No kidding, really?
Yeah.
Do tell, please. How did that go?
Oh well, I mean, I have trouble with the mainstream religions, and so I mean, you have something like.
Can you imagine that one? Yeah.
I'm just like, oh, yeah, because I mean, I piss off a lot of people because I think that all of the mainstream, religions are basically just bullshit, Excuse me, I shouldn't say that.
No, none of this. No, what's wrong with you, Mr. Schwartz?
Yeah. Well, I can't remember. Is this?
It's bullocks. That's what it is.
That's right. It's bollocks.
No, but I agree with you. Look, to me, I'm atheist, and it's funny because I had Michael Heiser on the show here, and we had kind of like a nice little powwow, and it was, I think, the first time an atheist and a religious person had agreements on things. But I'm an atheist, but I am open-minded to possibilities of other dimensions, other beings, perhaps maybe even some kind of deity or some sort. I just don't think religion has a grasp on reality at all.
Exactly. Well, see, I'm not an atheist, but
you're close.
Well, no. I mean, I do. I believe in some kind of creative force, in the universe. But as for man created religions, I mean, I don't have any room for those. I mean,
those boats don't float in my ocean, my friend.
No. I mean, when you're talking about, like, say, the three major religions on the planet, Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, these are religions where people are worshiping a book, basically, rather than a deity. They may say that they're worshiping a deity, but everything that they believe in comes from a book, and they worship the book rather than the supposed, deity that the books are based on. And the books come from man. So basically, they're just self-worshiping. And loath to admit it. They're not going to admit that.
And you know what the funniest thing is? They all really are just a derivative of the pagan religion.
Oh, sure, of course.
Every single one of them, and it's funny because they, as much at war as all these religions are with each other, they really just are all copying the same pagan religions of yesteryears of the past.
Now, a lot of the early writings that are included in these books, and others as well, are very interesting because, I mean, I think that it shows some kind of contact with beings or what have you that are not of this planet. Whether they come from other planets in the galaxy, whether or not they're I'll put these in quotes, paranormal in nature, which, I use the word paranormal because we just don't have the words in our vocabulary to describe what these other intelligences, what their sources may be. We really know so little about our reality, our universe. I definitely believe that there are intelligences that are probably native to planet Earth. But then, see, that's being simplistic as well. They are native to our reality, but exist in a different realm, so to speak.
Dimension,
vibration,
yeah. But see, those are kind of just simplistic words for something that we don't understand. But see, but they're not just associated, say, with planet Earth or planet Mars, right? They're everywhere because everywhere is here and here is everywhere. I don't know if I'm making myself, if that makes a lot of sense. But whatever realm that these things exist on, anywhere that you would go in the physical universe, they would be there as well, because there's no space-time in that realm like there is here. So, if you would have an experience with one of these beings or intelligence or what have you on planet Earth, you could go to Mars and they could be there as well, without...
It's funny because I've heard other people talk about life on Mars being very, very active right now. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, where is it? Because I see a lot of photos and I see nothing but rocks, man. Mm-hmm. And they're like, no, you're not going to see it because it's on a different vibration and you can't see them.
Right. Yes, I agree. But I don't think
that's a little hokey to me. I don't know.
I don't think, though, that it's just Mars or it's just Earth, because you're thinking in a material way. You're thinking...
Well, I'm a material girl and we live in a material world, Tim Swartz. Or material guy. There you go. But look, we live in a third dimension. We live in a third dimension, world, yes. And it's hard for us to understand, what the fourth or fifth dimension is. Heck, we can't even grasp really what a third dimension is. We don't even know why we're in a third dimension. You know what I'm saying? We're still trying to grasp our reality as it is. So to even start to think that, these other dimensions exist, it's really a mind bender. And, of course, we have Michio Kaku with his theories, and of course Einstein's theory of the relativity, and a lot of this stuff is scientific theories that make a lot of sense, but at the end of the day, how much of it is actually proven?
Right. Yeah, nothing is. Everything really is just theory. Some. I mean,
makes for great shows, though. It makes for great reading.
Yeah, it really does. Yeah. But John Keel, the late John Keel. I mean, he basically was saying the same thing, that when it comes to UFO phenomena, paranormal phenomena, what have you, they're all basically the same thing, just using different faces. And that
I agree with that.
Yeah, and that if you were to travel off of this planet to other planets, you would still run into the very same kind of phenomena. And it's not so much that it followed you; it's just able to get access to this reality from their own everywhere. Because their reality intertwines our own, what have you. I mean, it's
why would that be the case, though? Maybe if there's a parallel universe, maybe their reality is completely separate from ours. I mean, that would make more sense to me that their reality be intertwined with us. Like, one thing that I always found interesting was like the show Sliders, for example, where they would travel into parallel universes where the Earth is slightly different from their prime Earth, but it didn't really have any correlation to what was going on their Earth. They lived a separate life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that to me would make some sense. I don't know. I don't understand how the whole connection between the two Earths or the multiple universes would really affect one or the other.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, you say like with Sliders. I mean, which is very interesting.
Very underrated show, by the way.
Oh,
Very
it was.
underrated.
I love Sliders. Though, the last couple of seasons of it, I think they just kind of lost it.
Well,
the writers lost it, and just they're just like, yeah, what the hell, we're going to get fired.
Well, literally, Tracy Torme left the show after season 2, and that's what kind of killed it.
Yeah. But, recently, it's really interesting. Recently, there's some scientists that came out, and they were saying almost along the same lines as Sliders that, this is not a new theory, the many worlds theory,
the multiverse,
in quantum theory, that you've got an infinite number of universes that sit alongside of our own, those that are closer to us. Closer. I put that in quotes again because
let it go. There you go.
Yeah. Are more like what is going on here now, and the further away you get, the more the more different it is. And but see, I mean, we're just talking about one. That's just one aspect of our reality. I mean, the universe, our reality, other realities. I mean, I think that there are all kinds of different things going on out there, and I mean. We talk about the multi-world theories. Well, I mean that's just one thing of all the different realities that are going on all around us. I was talking about like say John Keel and his interpretation of say like the ultra-terrestrials and some of these interdimensional beings. I mean they may be associated with something that is completely different than the multi-world theories that we're talking about.
Well, yeah, that's a good question right there. What would be the difference between a parallel Earth, parallel universe being, and an interdimensional being? I mean, the word interdimensional leads me to believe that they're obviously in a different dimension, but inward dimension? I mean, what would be the difference?
Yeah, who knows? I mean, once again, I mean, these are just words for concepts that our brains really can't wrap themselves around.
I mean, I just had a brain fart just thinking about that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, think about it. It's along the lines of say like a fish. In the water, and somebody above it sticks their hand into the water, and the fish sees that hand, and it's just like blown away because here this strange thing just suddenly appears in its reality and then disappears again. And that's the way that we are. Except, I mean, we're seeing this from possibly all kinds of different sources. And I mean, just like the fish can't wrap his mind around, what is going on outside of the water, we can't wrap our minds around what's going on outside of our limited view of reality. And we try to explain it as much as we can, but we're just using words for concepts that we really can't even think about. We try to think about them, But it's like you said. I mean, most people have trouble thinking about the third dimension. I mean, let's not even talk about the fourth dimension or time or multi worlds or maybe creatures that exist on a slightly different vibrational rate, either slower or faster than the world we're living in, or maybe things that are maybe a second ahead of us in time or a second behind us in time.
But here's the thing: even if they were a second ahead of us in time, in our dimensional state, would we not see them? Maybe just moving a little faster.
Nah, they're always ahead of us or behind us. Well, I think it was
so confusing.
Yeah, well, I think it was like the Twilight Zone or the Outer Limits. One of these shows.
The Outer Limits.
Had. Oh, I did too. They had an episode where somebody, I can't remember exactly what happened, but they actually they got a glimpse of what goes on just like a little bit ahead of time. Say like time is like a train on a track that moves at a certain speed. If you could speed up just a little bit, you would see these creatures who are constantly building our reality just ahead of us. Definitely not a union crew there.
No, definitely not. Is that the same episode that they had William Shatner in with the plane? Remember that episode?
No. Yeah, I know the one that you're.
There's something on the wing.
Yeah.
Something. Here's a little trivia for you, for Slider fans out there. You know what book inspired the TV show Sliders?
I have no idea.
In fact, in the very first scene of the show, very first scene on the pilot episode, Quinn Mallory is sleeping and he's reading the book as he passed out and fell asleep, and the book is on his chest. The book is actually Hyperspace by Michio Kaku. Which was the entire inspiration for that TV show.
Wow.
Amazing. Great book, by the way. I highly recommend everybody gets Michio Kaku's Hyperspace and reads it. Fascinating book. Came out in 1994. Long time ago. Not really in a galaxy far away. But Tim, we're all out of time for the segment, man. It's always fun having you on the show, and I want to, of course, give you a minute here to give the audience your website, your links, and, of course, the time and dates for The Outer Edge.
Well, yes. Well, I'll give you my website first, which I work along with Mr. UFO, Timothy Green Beckley, who is the wonderful person that publishes a lot of my books. It's conspiracyjournal.com. Again, that's conspiracyjournal.com. And I have the Conspiracy Journal newsletter that comes out every week, and you can subscribe to it for free. It's an aggregate of all of the interesting and weird news stories that come out every week. I've got hundreds of stringers all across this planet that send me these stories, and thank God for them. I mean, they really make my job a lot easier. You can you can subscribe for free and get this newsletter. You just go to the Conspiracy Journal news site, and there's a place where you can send me your email, and you'll get it. And then you can also hear me and my co-host William Michael Mott on The Outer Edge, listened on some obscure radio network,
little network,
just a little guy, psn-radio.com, and it's on Sunday nights Eastern Time at midnight, or 12:59 if you want to go that route. Because, really, I mean, if you...
It's kind of confusing. It confuses the heck out of everybody.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of people who get really, really confused.
I've had people like... I've had guests on the show get confused, and I'm calling them ready to do the show, and they're like, I'm sleeping with the wife. What are you doing calling me today? It's tomorrow, right? And I'm like, no! We're going on now! Forget the wife!
That's right.
I'm sorry. I know you... Look, whatever you're doing with the wife, let it go, man. We got to do a show. Dark Matter Radio, baby. We got to be on.
So yes, that's right. The Outer Edge, Sunday nights, midnight, Eastern Standard Time.
Very cool.
We always have lots of really good guests on that show. So.
And Timothy Beckley, I got to have him on this show. He's a great guest. He's a good guy.
He is, and he's fun to have on.
This is Skywatchers Radio. Thanks again, Tim, for being on with us.
My pleasure.
You'll be back on pretty soon. I'm pretty sure of it because we're friends. That's the way it works around here. Conspiracy Journal land, give us an insight of what's the latest with you in Conspiracy Journal, my friend.
Oh my gosh, what's the latest with Conspiracy Journal? There's just all kinds of, every week there's something new and interesting with the Conspiracy Journal. And what's the thing that's got me going this week? Well, I don't know. There's I don't know if you have seen this, but there's a guy with a certain UFO sites that at this time of or this early in the morning, I can't remember offhand, but like every couple of weeks or so, he puts out something new about about Mars. Something that one of the rovers has taken a picture of.
Is it this Inyo something Mateo guy or something like that?
Well, it could be. Yeah.
Okay, I think I might know who you're talking about. Continue.
But he's always seen something in like the latest batch of Mars photographs, or even some of the older ones that one of the rovers has taken. And this one is the image of a rock that seems, has his claim to have human-like appearances, and it's on its side, and it does. It looks like a kind of an elongated face with looks like it's kind of wearing a hat. It almost has like a cartoonish appearance to it, and I'm always fascinated by some of these photographs that have been taken by these Mars rovers of things on Mars, especially the one craft that's in orbit around Mars that is able to take like these panorama shots. And there's been things that look like trees, like not just like one or two trees, but like vast forest and these other things. I don't know how you would describe them. They almost look like coral, the formations that were taken. I think they're.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Skywatchers Radio, and now joining us on the show, Conspiracy Journal's own Mr. Tim Swartz, or as I like to call him, Mr. Tim Schwartz. The Schwartz is with us. Welcome, Tim, back to the show. It's been a while since you've been on with us, man. Where have you been?
May the Swartz be with you, of course. Where have I been? I've been asleep.
Where have you been hiding? On the outer edge?
Yes, that's very good. Yes,
I like that. You saw what I did there, didn't you?
That's right. I have been on the outer edge, and at this time of night, more than likely sleeping.
Yes. So what's new?
They're around the North Polar regions of Mars. They're just really, really bizarre looking. And I think it was Arthur C. Clarke. Before he passed away. He made the comment that that whatever these things were, these huge, almost banta tree-like things that were taken, to him, he said that could really point to life on Mars. And of course, NASA always has some kind of explanation for these that doesn't involve life. NASA really bends over backwards to come up with explanations that doesn't involve life. You've heard of Occam's razor, right? The simplest explanation is probably the most likely, and NASA goes completely in the opposite direction. Rather than saying, these things do look like trees, no, instead they're like, well, this is like, some kind of frozen explosion of carbon dioxide that when it hits, every day NASA releases new photographs taken just from the surface of Mars, and this guy is always finding something, whether it be what he thinks looks like a gopher or a skull or some kind of robotic being or anything like that. And the latest one is he called it the new face on Mars. I don't know if you've seen that one.
No, I have not. But,
it's
I've seen a couple new faces on Mars. One that looks like a kid with a crown on its head. Is that the one you're talking about? Because that's a little bit older, though.
Yeah, this one just came out just a few days ago, and Scott, that's the guy's first name. claims that he's found signs of life in an old. This was, I guess, an older NASA photograph.